Finally.
Okay, I think it's working. I think it's working.
All
Okay, Ramiro, do you
right.
see it?
I do. Well, I see a meeting streaming live on Facebook.
I,
Yay!
I
Yay.
don't see. I don't see a link yet. Is it on? Is it on your timeline? Oh, there it is. Ah, got it.
Yay!
Yeah, we're there.
All right. Well, this is a very random. Okay. Okay, we're live. All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Letitia. This is my co-host, Ramiro. Today
How are
we
you
are
doing?
here with Danielle Sutherland. She is a veteran who served honorably in the Navy. She was arrested in 2015 for using prescription drugs in order to cope with her experience of being raped. Since then, she has turned her life around by seeking professional help, getting clean, and pursuing her degree. But years later, the Maricopa County Attorney's Office is filing charges against her for a DUI she committed back in October 2015. The DUIs were not alcohol related. They're only related to prescription drugs, and the crimes are victimless, so no one got hurt. So today she's facing a 6-month prison sentence, even though she's worked really hard to better herself. She's no longer using prescription pills. She's a completely different person. And at the end of the video, we will be urging you to sign our change.org petition to bring justice to Danielle. And I really want all of you to meet her. She is an incredible person, and this is why I am working on criminal justice reform. So hi, Danielle. Thanks so much
Hi,
for joining us.
Danielle.
Hi, guys. Thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it. I want to get this story out to as many people as I possibly can so that everyone can see the injustice that is happening in our state of Arizona and elsewhere also. People do get better and people do change. And I want people to see that. It's important to understand that people do get better, and we're able to turn our lives around if we just put our mind to it. So
Yes.
Yes.
thank you.
Something I always tell people is at the beginning of my advocacy work, well, before I started doing this, I just thought that bad people go to prison. And then after meeting people who are impacted, I realized that this is just not the case, especially in the state of Arizona where poverty is criminalized, where drug addiction is criminalized, and mental health issues. And I realized there's so many people who don't need to be incarcerated. And you, Danielle, are a perfect example of that. I mean, you've turned your life around. You didn't hurt anyone during the alleged crimes that you committed, and you were using prescription drugs in order to cope with a highly traumatic experience. And so this is a trigger warning for everyone. We will be talking about sexual violence. So if this is not a topic you're comfortable with, please don't watch this, because I think it is a very triggering and difficult experience. And I say that as a survivor myself. And to this day, it's been 7 years and I still think about it every single day. And I can't imagine what it was like for you, Danielle, to go through that. So do you want to walk us through your story? And thank you again for being here.
Absolutely. So in September 11th happened 2001, and I was in college in Oklahoma. And it really bothered me. I was trying to get my degree and to be everything that my family wanted me to be. But then my heart was like, this isn't okay. I want to do something to help. So I ended up joining the military in 2003. I joined the Navy, and 2004, I was in Camp Pendleton and working as a hospital corpsman in one of the clinics. And, I unfortunately suffer from migraines. And one day at work, I had a terrible migraine, and my chief ended up sending me home for the day. So I went home. I was not living on base. I was living in an apartment in Vista. And that evening, I heard a knock at my door, and it was my chief. He had never been to my home before, and I was a little off guard, but then again, I was young and a little naive. We're taught to lay down our lives for our brothers and sisters if need be. And that trust was unbreakable. you know, and I opened the door and I let him in, and he said, you know, are you feeling better? You know, I said, no, you know, my head is still killing me. And he was an independent duty corpsman, which means that he is able to write prescriptions. He's able to administer narcotics. And he opened his med bag and he said, you know, I brought some medication for you. Well, before that, I had always gotten Toradol, non-narcotic, anti-inflammatory, took care of my tension headaches. And I allowed him to give me that medication. You know, the next thing I remember is it being early morning of the next day, and he was on top of me. And from then on, you know, I was broken, but I was proud. I ended up staying in for another year or so, and then I begged for them to let me out. I told them what happened. They ended up giving me a diagnosis that I had never been diagnosed for, which was borderline personality disorder, on my DD-214. That way it swept under the rug, which would have kept me from receiving any benefits years later. But luckily, you know, all of that came to light in recent years that was happening, and things changed for disability wise, but for my soul and my heart, none of that was helped. And unfortunately, I found solace and comfort in prescription medication that was prescribed by psychiatrists.
Yeah.
And I did that for quite a few years. I got out of the military in 2005, and I continued that until 2014, when I finally decided that I was going to go and get help. I went to the VA, and they told me about a program in Long Beach, California, that helped survivors of military sexual trauma. And I went. One of my good friends, she was there. So I felt pretty safe and comfortable. I spent months there. And when I came back to Phoenix, I thought I was okay. I thought, you know, hey, I'm healed. You know, this is great.
Yeah.
I did not continue receiving counseling or any type of help through the VA or anywhere else. And it snowballed on me. This is a continuing life event that I needed continuous help for. You know, there are times that I have thoughts of what happened that I need to be able to reach out, and I didn't have that. So I went back to using prescription medications that were prescribed by the VA. And 2015 rolled around, and that was the year that tried to destroy me. I had DUIs, a couple of other charges, all related to prescription medication and my use of it. And it really tore me down. It tore me down. I allowed it to tear me down. You know, I put no blame on anybody else. This was all me. I was stubborn and I didn't listen, you know, like continue getting help, continue this, you know, I'm a soldier, you know, I'm strong, right? That's what I thought, you know, I can handle this. It wasn't true. I don't care how strong you are. You need support. I needed support all the way through it. I still have support, and I make sure that it's there constantly. So, go ahead, Leticia. I'm sorry.
Danielle, I think you are strong, and you're obviously so brave. And I know that when sometimes it's like when you're telling this story, it's almost like reliving the incident again in some ways. And I really applaud you for taking full responsibility. at the same time, if I'm pushing back a bit, we are dealing with, there's so much stigma around mental health and seeking help. You're working with a system that does not support you in terms of, when you're speaking out about this. And it's also why so many women struggle with speaking out against sexual harassment, sexual violence, any of these things. And I think it's difficult also to obtain mental health treatment in our country. And then you're facing this system, this criminal justice system, allegedly, that's not just. So I applaud you for taking full responsibility. But in my view, it's not, yes, it's all you, but you're influenced by a lot of brokenness around us.
Yes.
So I have a lot of compassion and empathy and yeah, but yes, sorry, go ahead.
I appreciate that. And, yes, there are a lot of influences around me that are, like my mother always says, they're throwing barbs at you, they're trying to knock you down. And my mother, she always taught me to stand tall, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, and I did that, after I went to prison in 2017 for a DUI that I had in June of 2015. I was like, you know what? I am 35 years old and I'm in prison. Like I was in the Navy. I was a corrections officer in New Mexico. Like, it was always my dream to be part of this system. I've always been a staunch supporter of the criminal justice system until now. I mean, I'm still a supporter, but it's not what I thought it was. I always thought, if you did something wrong, then you're gonna go to prison or jail or be punished for whatever you did. And I thought that it was like you did it a month or 6 months or a year down the road, you're punished for it. And that's just not the case.
And then you get out and then you start your life all over again.
Right. And that's exactly what I did, like I got out of prison and I waited, let's see, it was 2 years license suspension. I waited the 2 years and a year on top of that on my own, over 365 days before I got my license back, because I wanted to be able to trust myself before I got behind a wheel again.
Yeah.
Once I was able to trust myself, I said, okay, I'm not using narcotics. I'm not doing anything wrong. I have the coping skills to deal with anything, that's going to come at me now. And I went back and I got my driver's license, and I bought a new car. I got the SR22. I did everything that the court told me to do, above and beyond. And, 4 years later, I get charged with the October 2015 DUI. And it's one of those things where I just said, I'm so glad that I have the coping skills to deal with it now. If I would have been sober in 2016 and this would have happened, I can tell you right now that I would have slid back. But today, you can't take this away from me.
You said some earlier, I don't hate to cut you off. You said some earlier, like before you were in prison, you thought people who did bad things, they went to prison, did their time, and they got out. And you said you see the whole judicial system totally different now. Why is that?
Let's just use my case for example. Okay, so 2015 was a terrible year for me. I had quite a few charges, 5 to be exact. And I had the same judge. I'll leave her name out of this. I had the same judge for every single one of them. She saw me in those times. And in 2017, she said, if I could have sent you to prison in 2015 for this, I would have. But now I have to send you to prison and I don't want to.
Mm.
Because I had started the process of changing. I wasn't there 100%, but I had started it.
Yeah, yeah.
I was different from where I was in 2015 and 2017. But she had no discretion of whether or not to send me to prison.
Yeah.
The fact that they're in Arizona, I know for a fact, there are some charges that judges, commissioners, whatever, have no discretion to look at the big picture. They have to go by the statutes, which put all of us under one umbrella, and sometimes we don't fit all under one umbrella.
You're right. We don't fit. There's no one size fits all. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way.
And I know I'm not the only one who has turned their lives around and has done better, but are still facing criminal charges from years before. It's unjust, it's unfair, and it is life shattering. It is. So I just, there has to be a change, and if I have to stand up and if I have to put myself on the line to enact that change, well, here I am.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you recognized what those triggers are that kind of set you off? Because I know in the beginning of this conversation, Leticia was saying, hey, we're going to talk about criminal justice. We're going to talk about, mental health and sexual abuse. If you can't watch this, because this triggers some people. Have you recognized some of what your triggers are, and what do you do to get out of that?
I have absolutely recognized what some of my triggers are. Do I know them all? No, I don't. No. They still come every so often, and I'm pretty taken back by them. However, I have to give it to the VA. The dialectical behavioral therapy, the cognitive behavioral therapy. I put myself in those programs within the last 4 years, so I can be able to deal with those triggers when they come unexpectedly. My number one go-to is if and when I'm triggered, is I call somebody.
Good for you.
If my wife isn't right next to me and I can't say, Amy, this and this is happening.
Yeah.
Call me. Then I call Donna Alexander from Crossroads.
Good.
I spent quite a few months at Crossroads, and I wasn't ready back in 2010 when I was there. But they planted that seed in my head that, grew years later. And I call Donna, and Donna's always there. Crossroads is always there. So,
that's good.
Support system. And that's one thing I'm really terrified about, going to prison. My sentencing is August 3rd. If I'm triggered in there, I get 1 15-minute phone call a day. Do I call my wife? Do I call my 70-year-old dad? Do I call my 80-year-old grandmother?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I have no support there, and I'm afraid, to be honest. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one thing I also did want to mention, that just from having gone through a similar experience myself and trying to cope with the healing process, is that for people who haven't gone through anything like this, and I hope no one will, but for me, it's almost like the recovery process was worse than the actual incident.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the incident, it's kind of like, I kind of freeze. I just wasn't really all there. And then the aftermath, the years and years of pain. And, I kind of just hated my body because I felt like it was almost complicit in the act. And then through a lot of therapy, I learned that it's not I shouldn't say normal to use more destructive behaviors to address it, but it's very common among survivors and victims. And I wish that our judicial system would look at this with more compassion, knowing that this is such a horrendous experience for victims. And another thing that this brings to light is how many people who end up in the prison system are victims themselves. and it's almost like this revolving door, that we need to be addressing mental health issues, the root cause of crime, and not just putting people away behind bars, because that's just not going to do much.
Yeah. It's like punish. Like there's no rehabilitation.
Mm-hmm.
My question is it's called the Department of Corrections, right? They want to correct an issue. However, there is no means of correction within the Department of Corrections, right? So we hear the government here in Arizona talk about the recidivism rate. Recidivism is high here. Why is that? Because there's no programming. There's nothing within the prison system that's going to help people. That's, if they continue to keep sending us there. But then there's also no criminal justice part of like deferred sentencing, okay, this person has SMI, this person has sexual abuse, this, whatever the case may be. There is no alternative treatment other than just sending them to prison. Not everybody has family, unfortunately, like I do, that pushed and helped me to get better. And that breaks my heart, and that's why I'm here today. I want to help enact a change within this system that will help the people that don't have the support that I did. I want to be that support. I want to help, build from the ground up with you two, to support the people that don't have, that don't have a voice, that don't have family to back them up,
No, go ahead, finish.
No, I'm finished. Okay.
I know you don't know the dynamics between Leticia and I, and I'm always saying things like off the like totally left. If you look at the prison industry, it's a private industry. If I go to a company, like say I go to Walmart and something's not right, if I buy something, I have a right to return it, right? Because they didn't uphold their end of the bargain. So what if somebody sued the correctional facility and say, wait a minute, you didn't correct me. I either want my money back, you can't give me my time back. See, because if it's a private business, treat it like a private business. Because you and I both know, we've been in the system. We know all these laws. There's at least 9 laws to get you out. There's all these loopholes. So you know what? If it's a private business, I'm gonna treat you like a private business. It's called the Department of Corrections for a reason. You just said that. Am I correct? Am I fixed? Is putting me in timeout going to help me? Because if you put even an animal in a cage, it's going to rebel. It's going to act crazy. I mean, we have a little dog now, put in the kennel, it's like, just get me out. Okay, go run outside. Then it's better. It responds different to people. So has anybody looked into that, Leticia?
Well, yes. I mean, there's so many lawsuits against the Department of Corrections, from what I understand, and we have, that Parsons case that on the failing healthcare that has been ongoing for years and years. And I think that there's just so many tactics to either not address those issues or to prolong the litigation, or to defer responsibility. And I think one of the problems is that there's no accountability because litigation can take years and years, but what can we do for an individual who needs advocacy today? And by the time that it's being litigated, that person may be suffering from harm, or they might die. So that's a huge problem. And one of the solutions that people have brought up from one of my good friends, John Fabricius, is having a citizens oversight boards, because we have for so many committees in the state for pretty much anything except for when it comes to the prison system. So that's also something that's extremely odd. And also, before I forget, Danielle, I think you told me that because you've spoken to the media about this issue, because you've been publicly advocating, and I'm so glad that you are, that the prosecutors are trying to, in a way, punish you by not giving a deferred sentence. Is that correct?
Yes, that's absolutely correct. So I believe it was March 6th. I had my last hearing, and that was my plea agreement hearing where I would sign or not sign. And I kept asking for, lesser time or house arrest or probation, because they lowered my charge from a class 4 DUI to a class 6 endangerment, which is not under the statute of mandatory sentencing. Endangerment is probation eligible. However, the prosecutor told me that if I would not have done the article with the New Times, that he would have given me a deferred sentence. Wow. And that in itself was a slap in the face. I never once badmouthed Maricopa County Attorney's Office. When I did that interview, my thought process at that time, which is different than now, my thought process at that time was, okay, they're doing their job. Maricopa County Attorney's Office is doing their job. I can't be angry at them. What am I angry at? I'm angry at the Arizona statutes and how outdated they are. And to be punished for exercising my First Amendment right was extremely painful. And it did shut me up for quite a while. I've had a lot of opportunities to do other interviews, and I was afraid. I was afraid of retaliation. I was afraid of my plea being pulled. But at this point, I can't be quiet because I'm not the only one who has been bullied into signing a plea. I'm facing, if I didn't sign the plea, I was facing 10 years in Department of Corrections. And that was told to me verbatim. If you don't sign this today, this offer's gone. And unfortunately, Arizona is a plea agreement state. I don't know the exact percentages, but it's very small how many end up going to trial because of being quote unquote bullied into signing a plea. So it's extremely unfortunate, but my plea has been accepted by the court, and I refuse to be quiet anymore because this has to change. I do not fit under that umbrella. I am not a danger to the public. And, I have dedicated my life to helping the community now. And that's why I'm here today, is to help the community, the part of the community that people forget about,
Yeah.
You're definitely not a danger to society. You are an inspiration and a role model and an advocate for people who don't have a voice, and we appreciate that. So we have some questions on our Facebook post I see. So Will Knight, who is running for Maricopa County Attorney, and I know that he has plans to address all of these issues that you've mentioned, and clearly we need new leadership in our state. So he's asking, do you believe that criminal justice is a partisan issue? And can we work across the aisle with each other to make the changes that you're talking about?
I believe that it depends on the politician. So I currently work for Representative Walt Blackman. He is one of the most amazing men that I have ever met. He is a Republican. He's sitting in the House right now, and he is not partisan. He is willing, and I'm willing to cross the aisle to work together. Now, what upsets me is, I don't mean any offense, but this is the way it is. I feel like it's elementary school kids fighting over, you stole my toy, so now I'm not anymore. You see what I'm saying? Like, okay,
yeah.
That's all got to go away. Like Representative Blackman told me, criminal justice system touches everybody.
Yes,
Don't care if you're Republican. I don't care if you're Democrat. I don't care if you're Green Party.
Mhm.
Somewhere down the line, it touches you and your family. And that's the point where we all need to come together and work as a team to make this situation better. And this is where we put our heads together. The left gives good ideas, the right will give good ideas. We meet in the middle, we compromise, and then we make it big. You know, we try and fix this system. It is not partisan. And I hope that people will end up seeing that and to stop being childish when it comes to this. These are people's lives. This is my life. You know, this is my life. This is hundreds of thousands of other people's lives. And it's not a joke and it's not a game. So no, it's not partisan. We do need to come together.
Yes, we do.
I have trouble seeing, even from both a Republican and Democratic perspective, why the current system would be a reasonable system to keep. I mean, from a Republican perspective, we want a smaller government, and the Department of Corrections has such broad overreach. It has a $1 billion budget, and I know that working with some of the legislators, when we ask what they're doing with their money, there seems to be no accountability and no one can really tell us what they're doing with it. And when we're asking why they can't provide more beds for women at Perryville, more feminine hygiene products, or any type of healthcare and masks during COVID, it's the answer seems to be we don't have enough money. Then it's like, what are you doing with the $1 billion budget? And the fact that we're spending more on our prison system than on education, it just seems to be completely unreasonable, whether you're coming from a Democratic perspective or Republican perspective. So none of this makes sense to me.
It doesn't make sense at all. What do you think? I mean,
it doesn't make sense to me either.
Where it goes, I've been in Perryville, and there's definitely not anywhere near $1 billion budget when you look at Perryville. We don't even get pillows to sleep on. We roll up a wool blanket, and sleep on that, and it's just the ceilings are leaking, and it's terrible. Where is that going? I have no idea.
Do you want to talk about what your experience was like at Perryville? So
I had this preconceived idea of what prison was. I had watched Wentworth. I had watched Orange is the New Black, and it looks terrifying, right? And when I went in there, I was afraid. I was terrified. And I met some of the most wonderful, loyal women in there. Normal, down-to-earth people that I'm still friends with today.
Yeah.
And sorry, I'm getting choked up. If I need anything, they're there. They are there. We are people. We're daughters. We're sisters. We're wives. We're for the most part, I'm not obviously talking about 100% of the population. I didn't see that. I was in the minimum yard.
Mm-hmm.
The most normal, down to earth people. Were there some bad apples in there? I'm sure. I'm sure. But there are everywhere. It doesn't matter. But I received more backlash. I received sexual advances from staff. Never once was I threatened or harmed by any of the women in there. They were always building us up, building each other up. It was just, they're my family. And I'm not ashamed of that, They are loyal people, good women.
I agree. So when I was visiting Perryville, I remember I had just passed the bar exam at that point. I remember the entire room of women clapped for me and cheered for me. And at the end of my session speaking with them, some of them came up and gave me hugs and thanked me. And it was just this really nice bond. And they are some of the most loving, normal people that I've met with. And they are so inspiring to me, these struggles that they've had to overcome and who they've become now through this entire long journey. And many of these times they have experienced sexual violence and domestic violence and drug addiction from coming from a very just difficult life.
Right.
Yeah.
And like we all go back to that, there's no help on the inside for that. And it's unfortunate because again, these people, men and women, get out, and if they have not been taught basic life skills but have been in there 10 years or whatever, you know, how do I do a budget? How do I live? How do I get a job? How do I dress?
How do I use a phone?
All right, I was just gonna say,
the internet's new.
I mean, how do I do this? You know, and then prison becomes a comfort. It becomes safe, and that's not okay. You know, we keep sending these people back. You get one life. You get one life, and the government, the judicial system, at least here in Arizona, is taking that away by not helping beforehand. Do these people did I make poor decisions? Absolutely. Yeah. Did I need to go to prison? Yeah, I did. And I went in 2017 and I got better. And I'm not the only one who's done that. And I, like I said before, I want to be that voice that say, hey, you know, yes, I'm a felon. Yes, I'm a recovering addict. But I changed and I got better. I'm 2 classes short of my degree, and I'm working for a representative of Arizona, you know, to try and make the transition of inmates coming out their lives a little bit better.
So you got quote unquote corrected.
I got corrected by my own.
There you go.
Nothing from the Arizona Department of Corrections corrected me.
Yeah, exactly.
For that little timeout that said, hey, you know, I'm in prison. I never thought I'd be here before. I got to change something right now. And I pulled my bootstraps up, just like my mom said, and I got up, dusted my knees off, and here I am today. So.
Again, Daniel, I am so inspired and uplifted by your courage, and also the fact that you're taking responsibility. But my position is still that I just don't think that you should have gone to prison in the first place, because when people are addicted to drugs, that's a health issue for me, and we should treat it as a public health matter. And
prescription drugs.
Exactly, and it's prescription drugs. And I think that isolating you from the rest of the community as if you're a dangerous person is just wrong. And we actually need the opposite, where we need more, you know, family and friends support, and the support from your community and people to call when you are triggered. That 15-minute phone call is just not humane in light of what you're having to experience, and it's just not helpful. So I don't know how to make the system more transparent and more open to the public, but it ought to be. I know that in other countries, it's just not like this. It's not as closed off. It's not like there's a community and then the prison system is kind of this huge wall where for family and friends don't know what's going on the inside. And when there are instances of abuse, then the public doesn't know, and it shouldn't be like that. And I hope that my generation, by the time we get into positions of leadership, that we can change this, because this can't be sustainable for people. Sorry about my long rant.
No. You're good. You're perfect.
So the change.org petition, for people who want to sign it, there seems to be, well, half the time I think the link is broken, but if you click on it again, sometimes it works. So please click on it multiple times, but yeah. And if we can find a different link, we'll put that up. Is there anything else that you want to share, Danielle?
You know, I want to make it, so I knew nothing about personal advocacy before going to Arizona State. When my case was refiled in September of 2019, I was right in the beginning middle of my last policy class. And my professor, she said, well, have you written a letter to legislation? And I said, oh, you're kidding me. They don't listen to that. Well,
they don't read that.
And she goes, no, do it. And I said, oh, okay. So I wrote a letter, and sure enough, I ended up getting a call back from Representative Kevin Payne that same day, because I sent an email to the 11 sponsor and co-sponsors of the mandatory sentencing judicial discretion bill that was first released in 2019, I believe by Representative Rivero, which is a great bill and should have been passed. And then Representative Blackman, and advocate for yourself, stand up for yourself, because you do have a right. I don't care if you have made poor decisions or, it's years later after you've made those decisions. Stand up for yourself. You have rights. Advocate for yourself. Make your voice heard. And I want to share my email address to everyone, that if you want to reach out to me for any questions or anything, I made a special email just for stuff like this, and it is azrevolvingdoor@gmail.com, azrevolvingdoor@gmail.com, and I will be happy to speak with anybody who's going through similar situations, or family of people that have gone through situations like this. And I'm here. My sentencing is August 3rd. I'm supposed to go in for 6 months. And up until then, I'm here for everyone else. So, and that's what keeps me going.
Is there anything we can do to support your sentencing, or have you kind of envisioned what that day is going to be like? And is there anything that we can do to help?
If you want to follow me on Twitter, I would like to get a big grassroots effort to all show up and support me during my sentencing. I have maybe 15 people that are going to be there, but it's going to be a really tough day for me. And I want, as many people who can support me as possible to be there, just to build me up, and so I can continue to do what I'm doing, even while I'm inside. I want to be a voice for those women in there also. If there's anything, that people can do to help me, that's probably would be the biggest. So.
Well, I will be there. And you're so inspiring. I know I've said this so many times, Danielle, but
very inspiring.
It's hard for me to not cry listening to you, and just to think about the injustice of the situation, and if there's anything else that we can do. So if you, during your 6-month Perryville, right? Can we visit? Do we write? Do we send you stuff?
Yeah, can we send you some? You're gonna need some commissary money.
Well, if you guys want to reach out to me on the email address that I gave you, we can talk, and I can give you my wife's information, and you guys can all get together and visit or write letters or whatever. That would be great. Mail call is really the only window to the outside that we have. Well, that was back then. Now there's tablets. I'm not sure how that works, but I know that there's a JPay app that you can, email each other to, which is another window for me out. Otherwise, I'm stuck, and I don't want to do that. Another way that could be helpful is I dismissed my attorney a couple weeks ago, and I am continuing pro se. So if there maybe is an attorney out there that would like to possibly help me in any possible way, or if you have ideas, I am more than willing and grateful to hear those ideas.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, we will brainstorm, and I will be writing you. I will be as supportive as I can be, and I will be there on your sentencing. And thank you so much for.
I'll be there too. We'll be there together.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. And everybody that's watching, thank you. And I appreciate everybody who's following my case. And I do want to thank Meg O'Connor, who's now with the appeal. She did my initial story with the New Times. She's an amazing journalist. And I also wanted to thank Representative Walt Blackman for standing behind me. He's a really, really great man, and he definitely needs to be back in office. So.
All right. Well, thank you.
Well, thank you so much.
And by the way, we have upcoming elections to change this system. So our county attorney seat will be huge. Presidential race is obviously going to be huge. So let's all vote. Let's please be engaged in local and state politics because those changes are really important, and they, as you can see, affect the lives of individuals.
They do.
Yes.
Well, thank you for being on our platform. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Anytime.
All right. Have a good day, Danielle. I will be in touch.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you both.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.